Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to a brand new video here today, and welcome to another F1 2020 Career Mode Game Ideas video. You guys have been asking for another one of these actually on my social media platforms as well, so we're back again with 7 other things that we all want to see in F1 2020 Career. A lot of these taken from your comments below of the previous videos, and then we've got one idea that I want to bring to the table, so kind of 6 of these are all from the comments, and then the last one at the end of the video will be kind of one I'm going to chuck into the ring here. But yeah, we're going to go for it then with 7 more ideas to bring to the table to add to this big long kind of list we're collating. Obviously this point of the year is probably when they're already starting to be right in the middle of developing F1 2020, especially if the game's going to be coming out at the same time as 2019. This year obviously was earlier in June, and there's rumors potentially, and we kind of hope that maybe it could come even earlier than it came this year, and if it does, they're definitely in the middle and the swing of making this game, so this is the time to maybe chuck in some ideas that could maybe just last minute make it into the game, or potentially just for the future F1 games as well, to try and just bring a kind of big pool of ideas basically to the table that Codemasters could hopefully maybe listen to. So number 1, and this was quite a popular one on the last video we did in the comment section below, I think like over 200 likes or what it was on the top comments here, sponsors on the helmet. Now the person who commented this didn't specify if they meant the real life sponsors or the fake ones. I get kind of both ideas from this, so essentially you could go 2 ways. You can have fake sponsors like we have with the custom multiplayer liveries. You have these random kind of fake companies, and you could potentially get those sponsors, and you could actually, you know, in my mind it'd be a cool thing to have a proper helmet editor basically where you can actually move the sponsor around on the helmet, almost like if you like, you know, customize a car in Need for Speed, or you know, design your, you know, gun on Call of Duty basically. You can kind of move around the kind of different shapes and stuff like that, so you could have the fake sponsors being able to move around. Or the other way to go about this idea would just be having the default sponsors of the teams as a file, and I think we said this before, I think potentially, in terms of just having that slapped on to each custom helmet that you make. So obviously, you know, Ferrari has certain sponsors, McLaren has certain specific sponsors, the Red Bull team obviously is very obvious what the sponsors they have, and so you could have those files in the game where it's just kind of a PNG, if you will, almost, of these sponsors kind of hanging in the game files, and it just slaps it onto your custom design just to make it feel a bit more authentic. I think a cooler way to go though would be the fake sponsors, because then you could maybe work into almost like the old school FIFA career modes where you could sign your own fake sponsors. You can maybe sign your own personal fake sponsors to get onto the car. I don't know what that would exactly give you. Potentially, if you sign them, maybe you get extra R&D points, because obviously R&D points in the game kind of equal the same thing as money in the game, so it would kind of make maybe some logical sense to have a system like that where maybe you could get some bonus points, some bonus R&D points for signing a lucrative new sponsor deal, and then you can't kind of sign a new one for another like 2 seasons or 1 season if it's like a big personal sponsor for your driver. Number 2 is going to be Will Buxton in the game instead of Claire, and yeah, obviously this hasn't actually been brought up yet, and it's quite a simple changeover. It'd be a very welcome changeover. Will Buxton, I really enjoy him, or what he does with the Paddock Pass on the F1 YouTube channel, and just generally as a presenter for many years. He's been really great at what he does ever since, you know, when he kind of came onto the scene properly, you know, doing the GP2 commentary, and then really came to the forefront of F1 presenting in the last year or so. It would be great. I think Will, I don't know, I can't speak for him, but I think he might be up for that sort of thing. Could be quite a cool experience for him to do that, and so it would be awesome if they somehow could work out a way to work with Will Buxton to get his likeness in the game, and maybe get him to record the kind of interview questions. I know for sure that would be a very cool experience, not to have this random Claire character, but to have actually Will Buxton, the man who does a lot of the, you know, pen interviews for F1 themselves. When they do interviews on their YouTube channels, it's usually Will that's asking the questions, so it'd be cool to have Will Buxton in the official F1 game, like Crofty and Anthony Davidson are in, but obviously they're not character models, but it'd be cool to have Will Buxton's character model in there, like they did with Crofty back in, what was it, F1 2011, I think it was. They had a very bad render of Crofty in F1 2011, but it was cool nonetheless. So yeah, Will Buxton, get him in the game. I'm sure he'd be up for it, hopefully. Number 3, now this is quite an out there idea actually, and quite a cool one, is to have demo runs in the game, like F1 Live, like at F1 London, or these F1 fan festivals in Milan or like America, and if you partake in them, you get more team rep for doing them, so you can actually drive the streets of a city. Obviously that'll be a lot of character modeling, a lot of 3D mapping of, you know, London streets or random streets. Basically, even if they did fake cities, it'd still be quite a lot for Codys to probably code. They are a small team, you've got to remember, and basically the game's already quite bloated anyway with all these massive tracks, and just basically the game's very big anyway on the PC. I think it's like, you know, well over like 30 gigs or whatever, and just keeps growing basically every single year, so it would kind of bloat the game quite a fair bit. But if they had that kind of scenario where you could kind of, you know, drive out of this kind of makeshift paddock on a city road and do some donuts basically to get some extra rep, I mean, in a way, the classic car stuff that's already in career mode I feel like when they put those into the career mode ever since, what was it, 2018 or 2017, I can't remember, 2018 I think it was always meant to kind of be almost like that sort of PR kind of event, because Claire always tells you it's like a, you know, classic car event, like a PR event that you might want to show up because your rival's going to partake in it. But to actually put onus on the fact that it is a PR event, get rep from it, and kind of have it in a different location other than just the normal racetracks, would kind of make it more legit of a PR event rather than, oh, we're just putting some classic cars in the middle of career mode just to try and justify the fact we have them in the game. Number 4, now I really like this idea, is going to be changing engine supplier if your current one is underperforming, or just basically being able to swap the engines out from season to season potentially. Maybe you could have a deal where in the menus it says you're locked into this engine supplier for 2 years. After 2 seasons, you can choose to jump ship and go to a different engine supplier. Now, of course, there might be licensing issues for sure. Obviously, we have driver transfers now, and they put those in, and teams are okay with that. So I don't know if teams would be okay to kind of, you know, let's say, I don't know, I feel like the one that comes to mind would straight away be Honda back in a McLaren car. I feel like Honda would really kick up a stink if that could happen in the F1 game, like officially, not obviously with a mod, but officially in the game mechanics. So there might be issues with that, and then obviously maybe Mercedes won't want to be in a Ferrari car. I mean, you have instances like that maybe. Obviously in the game, I would hope that maybe those are kind of locked off. Like, so if you're in the Ferrari or Mercedes cars, basically you're a works engine car. Same with Renault, so you can't change engine supply. But if you're a customer team, you can choose to buy your engine basically. And maybe, I don't know, there could be like a budget you have as a team maybe, and depending on where you finish in the constructors, if you finish P4, best of the rest, and then feel like McLaren, you can maybe get more budget, and then you could look into, I want to change the engine supply. Can I go with, you know, Mercedes this year? Obviously, we know McLaren are going to go with Mercedes from 2021. So like real life almost, changing engine supplies, it would kind of make sense over a 10-year career to be able to do that. But licensing issues could be a cropper, but we said that for driver transfers, and they finally got them in the game. So I think it would be a really awesome idea, because it'd be so cool to be like, oh, I'm underperforming, I've got a great aero, great chassis, I just need to get a Mercedes engine in this car, or a Ferrari engine in this car, and then we could really make a mark on the kind of top guys, and vice versa. The top guys, if you're in that top team and you have AI teams moving engines, you could kind of find yourself suddenly kind of with a lot more competition if the AI team has moved to a different engine. 5 is going to be a very unlikely idea, but a cool one nonetheless, of course, as well, is creating your own team. Now, this is not so crazy. In F1 Mobile, you can create your own team. They have that generic FOM car, which is also in the F1 2019 game, remember, for multiplayer. That generic car that Ross Brawn and his team have made in conjunction with Codemasters. So it would be kind of cool, like F1 Mobile, if you could make your own team with that generic FOM car, have a very generic kind of, you know, livery designer, basically, with some stripes and shapes and whatnot, some fake sponsors. Maybe just basically carry over the entire system we have in multiplayer for these custom liveries into single player for the career mode, and you can create your team. And when you create the team, it's almost like Motorsport Manager. If you create your own team, everything is from scratch. You've got the worst engine, the worst chassis, the worst aero, and you really are rock bottom, and it is the truest form of a road to glory you could ever do in career mode, trying to build up your team. You're like the player manager, if you will. You're like the driver manager in this kind of case. It would be a very sick scenario. I know myself that would be a very enjoyable thing to maybe try and do as a road to glory series. If it would ever be possible, I'm not too sure, because of course I think F1 would want it to be kind of, you know, when you watch a career mode race or play the F1 game in career mode, it's authentic to, you know, the actual 10 teams in F1. But if F1 Mobile can do it, I mean, you know, could there be a sign on a horizon that maybe it could be a thing in the actual proper console and PC F1 games in the future? It would be a very sick idea, I think. Number 6 is going to be a better and more detailed MFD menu on the bottom right, or depending on where you have it on the heads-up display, basically. They're having a better MFD and more information coming from that in things like predicted gaps in traffic, or if you're going to just simply hit heavy traffic or not. You know, if I want to kind of pit early, you know, can I ask my engineer basically for the info, or if it comes up on the kind of info itself. You know, right now, if you do look at the pit stop window, you can see your window of laps. You can see if how many positions you're going to lose, you know, down to like predicted position P16. But let me know maybe with another line of, you know, info basically, if that's going to be heavy traffic or light traffic. I don't know how how it could exactly, determine that, but it can determine your position. So if it could just maybe, if the game could read the time gaps and determine, okay, 5 seconds is, light traffic, you've got 3 seconds is heavy traffic, and then like 10 seconds is no traffic at all, clean air, just to kind of tell you that extra bit of information basically and inform you more. A lot of the times there is a bit of a stab into the dark, especially when it's raining potentially as well, but also even just when you've got a tricky kind of tire wear race, let's say Singapore or Hungary, it is sometimes a bit of a stab into the dark of, okay, I might go faster here with the undercut if I pit right now the Hungaroring, but I know also the Hungaroring, how many times have I had so much traffic to overtake in the last, 2-3 seasons of my career mode on the channel? It'd be kind of cool for the engineer to let me know that info. Like, if you pit now, there will be a lot of traffic, so I might kind of, suggest you don't. You just wait out, kind of, go through the pain of being on these worn tyres, because you're going to benefit later on when you do get in clean air. Just having a bit of a smarter engineer, really, or smarter MFD. MFD has been relatively the same for the last 2-3 years, so it would be kind of cool to have an update on that, kind of more info, basically. I think F1 fans in general just want more info and more kind of tools at their fingertips, generally, when it comes to the F1 game, especially if you're an avid player of it. And finally, number 7, and this is going to be my personal idea, is I want the ability to simulate through multiple races at the same time. Give us a calendar like FIFA that you can see every single race. They had it in F1 2011. They had in 2011 in the paddock menu, they had a screen where you could see all the races in like a calendar thing. I want the ability to have that kind of calendar thing and just skip to a race later on in the season to go simulate. Obviously, it's maybe not the most useful thing for most players, because most people want to play through most races, but I'm thinking if you got later on into seasons, let's say you got to season 8, season 9, God forbid, season 10, and you're like, it's now May of the next year, so you're right at the end of the game cycle. You still are obviously a fan of career mode, you're still finding it somewhat fun. Obviously though, if you've been playing the F1 career mode like myself and maybe some of you guys since June up until May 2020, you might have got bored of the career mode fully by that point, in terms of like, you won't want to play every single race, but you still want to kind of see how your career mode save pans out. I know I definitely would be curious to see how my career mode pans out after 10 seasons, especially with driver transfers and the team performances. What would happen in terms of, how many titles a certain driver is going to get, how many what teams are going to win the championships. So if I have the ability to maybe, let's say in season 10, I don't really play every single race. I fancy just playing my favorite Grand Prix like Canada, Monaco potentially, Spa, Silverstone. All the others though, don't want to play them. So can I simulate through to the ones I do want to play? So if you can just look at the calendar and just click Monaco Grand Prix, simulate that, and so literally the game just spins around and loads and does its thing and does its simulation coding, and just you sit there and you watch the calendar hop all the way to the Monaco Grand Prix. You can then look at the full race results of every single race, all the simulations, and then you can just go to the Monaco GP. Because right now you can simulate a race by race, but you literally have to go through so many menus to click through and simulate. You have to simulate practice, then you have to go and skip qualifying or do qualifying. You can't simulate qualifying, which I don't get. If you can simulate the race, you should be able to simulate qualifying. They should be able to simulate every single AI car and your player AI just doing a simulated one-shot quali lap. They should be able to do that. So right now, you simulate practice, you skip quali or do quali, then you can simulate the race. The simulation's not that great, by the way, so that's also one thing. Improve the goddamn simulation of the Grand Prix. Don't try and force me to play the game. I'm clicking simulate for a reason. Make a good simulation for the race. But then, yeah, that's it. You've gone through 3 different iterations, and there's so much loading time in these menus as you go through. It gets so dull. If you could just click through to race number 6, it just does it in like, a flash of like 2 minutes, simulates every single bit of data. You don't even need to do any graphics based. So you just simulate it in the background, and then you just show the player some tables with numbers. I think, honestly, it sounds like a bit of a weird idea, and maybe something that won't be too useful, but I genuinely think if you give players that tool, they would get through to Season 10 in the career mode, because I definitely have had that in the past on F1 2018, 17, and, etc., where I've got to the later seasons of career mode, and I start to slow down my pace of playing through, because I'm like, I've been playing these tracks for so long now, on the same game now for like, 6-7 months. I don't fancy doing it all, basically, but I still want to get to Season 10. I've always tried to aim for Season 10. I got kind of close last year. It would be cool to actually simulate through some of these seasons and just play my favorite tracks of the seasons to still see how the career mode save pans out. So that's been 7 other ideas we all want to see in F1 2020 career mode. Of course, that last one being just kind of me selfishly wanting that one in career mode, but you guys might agree with me on that. Let me know in the comments below if you do agree with all these points, if you disagree, and if you have any ideas for F1 2020 career that we maybe have not mentioned yet, then do comment them down below, and be sure to read through other people's people's ideas and thumbs them up, because the kind of highest thumbs up ones are the easiest ones that I can actually see then for the kind of next one we do of this video, basically. But guys, if you did enjoy the video, be sure to hit that like button. If you aren't new around here, do get subscribed for weekly full-on content. I've been aarava. Have a day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.